6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
What a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris. I'm Chris, she's Anna. I'm not jealous. She was at the game. How you doing, Anna?
Yeah, pretty good. Tired, but good. Yeah. It was a pretty incredible experience to be at game one of the playoffs, you know, in a city starved of home playoff hockey for so long.
It's been a spell. I mean, we've talked about how long a spell for as long. I mean, again, it still blows my mind that when I launched this podcast in 2013, that we would only see one, playoff series in Vancouver. I mean, the bubble doesn't count because obviously that was in the bubble. But oh my goodness, I wasn't at the game and it felt electric. So I can't imagine what it would have been like for you who happened to be in the Raj. Again, we talked about this before we hit record. A little disappointed you didn't take your best podcast mate Chris.
I know. I do feel bad, but you then revealed afterwards that you were at the last Nashville Vancouver 2011 game. I think this was a first playoff experience for Nadine, who I took as well. So.
Yeah, I've been to a few playoff games. The last one being Nashville Game 1 2011 in the second round. Probably the most epic would have been the Dallas Vancouver game, the quadruple overtime.
Yes.
Again, I just luck that I was
of history.
At that game. Yeah, that was the experience itself. But yeah, I mean, if you were curious why we're a day late, Anna went to the game.
Yeah,
she chose watching the Canucks live than being here to record for you, our listeners. Just saying.
It's true. It's true.
But, playoff hockey has started. The Canucks are already up. Spoiler alert. One buzz. That's one of 16. So 15 more to go, Anna. The, show will probably have to touch on the fact that there were a couple of regular season games since we last recorded. But the focus is really going to be on the Canucks, the Nashville Predators, and ultimately what we might think could happen when we get together to record again. And I think we'll have to talk about it. But the Vancouver Canucks will be in Nashville for Game 4. That'll be on Sunday, the 28th. Sunday would normally be a day we record. The game itself has a 2 p.m. Pacific puck drop.
Right.
So I'm thinking we'll probably record an episode that night. But with the fluidity of NHL playoff scheduling, please understand we may have to be somewhat fluid in our podcast recording. We're not those professional podcasters that were doing post game episodes and live streams and all that jazz. Exactly. We're just the best mediocre.
Yeah, quite right.
But other than going to the game, how was your weekend, Anna?
Yeah, it was really good, actually. Just want to take a second and appreciate what a great city we live in, and specifically the community I live in of East Vancouver is just the coolest, friendliest, loveliest place. I spent all of Saturday on East Hastings. I went to the Iron Dog bookstore, which is an Indigenous-owned bookstore, really friendly people there. I spent a gift card that I had won at work in a competition I set myself. So,
Wait, sorry. Did you win it? So I'm not saying that you did anything untoward.
No, I would never. Okay, no, it was an Oscar pool. And I set up the Oscar pool, and I just did a bunch of research, and I know movies, and I know the Academy, so I won.
So what you're saying, the others mailed it in?
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't listen to our show, because you just called them out.
Yeah. Well, I got called out, and specifically, did you cheat? Which is fair enough, I guess. But yes, So I got to do that.
By them or by me moments ago?
Both. I ran into a hockey friend of mine. I got given a free block of cheese just because the guy wanted me to try it. I have to say, like, this was by a legit, like, store. It wasn't just a guy on the street. But yeah.
Hey, young lady, would you like some of my cheese?
Oh, God. Cut. That's...
What?
Yeah.
You said you got a block of cheese from some random guy who wanted you to try his cheese. Heaven forbid anything be wrong with that.
Yeah, of course it wasn't. Anyway, I just had a very lovely local day. So,
that's good.
Big props to East Van. How about yourself?
Cool. Well, my daughter is 7. She had her birthday on Saturday.
Yes.
So that was an experience.
Party.
Lessons were learned.
Oh, yeah.
I think the girls, like the kids, they all enjoyed it. They left happy. My wife and I, we learned lessons. Things like the piñata never goes the way you had envisioned. But there was also a minor little hiccup. When my wife was coming home Friday night, our engine blew in our car. Essentially, the head gasket's done, so the car is done. Like the cost to repair is so prohibitive, it makes absolutely zero sense. But that cascade of we lost Friday night because of the car issue dead on the highway and the length of time it took before it got towed, which was actually longer than the amount of time my wife spent waiting for the tow truck. I ended up picking her up on the side of the highway. But one car now then meant Saturday morning required some massaging and anyhow. The party went off well, but ultimately it could have gone better had we been a little bit more able to accommodate the loss of the car. But hey, if any of our listeners owns a car dealership and just has a free car available, I'd be happy to take that off your hands.
That'd be nice.
And the C4 podcast could be brought to get by your dealership.
I love that.
I hope you don't mind. I'm selling our show so I can get a car out of it.
I mean, by all means, if that works, like, go off.
Yeah, I mean, I always wondered, like, when you see, like, the dealerships, sponsor Canucks players and stuff like that, like, is it a matter of, hey, you can have this car and you do this, like, commercial hit for us? Or is it a lease for a period of time as long as you do the commercial hit? Like, I've always been genuinely curious how that all works.
I guess they get the car, but, like, no, I don't know. I think they get it for the season because who knows what will happen if they get traded or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how does a player commit to doing this if suddenly they're off to, Tempe, Arizona?
They pull a Jimmy Vesey and leave their car in the parking lot and just never return.
True. Yeah. Oh, well. Let's talk a little bit about the Vancouver Canucks, the atmosphere, the playoff series, and even the baby Canucks. But before we get to them, we do need to get to the Canucks in Rewind. By far, the biggest question going in to the home opener, what will the Vancouver Canucks come onto the ice to?
Yeah.
And I was going at please be streets, because I'm a nostalgic guy. Like, I get it. Like, there are people out there that, like, they have an issue with streets because there's sort of some bad history. The Canucks have not succeeded using streets. The lyrics.
I mean,
defeatist.
But that's never stopped them before. They had, like, Zombie, song about, like, the troubles in Ireland as a victory song for the longest time. So... never stopped them before.
But there's just something about streets to me that it's like towel power. Like, what is the swinging of a white towel synonymous with? Defeat, surrender. Yes, that's exactly what Roger Nilsson was doing when he raised it. But it's ours. Like, others use it. That is ours. And I feel like if it was something other than streets, it would have had to have, like, been amped up 3 or 4 times to a greater extent to have the same impact that Streets does. And so as soon as the siren and the beginning of Streets hits, Al Murdoch starts calling out the team. Oh, it's just electric. You probably didn't catch this, but during the first intermission, they actually talked about the use of Streets and whether or not it was the organization trying to take a shot at Nashville.
what would the shot be? Just back in 2011? We beat you in 2011?
No.
Is that...
No, apparently something to do with Nashville and U2 specifically. Like they skipped a U2 concert or got kicked out because of U2. I don't know. Like I didn't quite catch it.
I don't think they're that smart, I'll be honest.
Well, no, and that's what I had said. Like on social media, I'm like, no, man. Like Bieksa had said, I didn't think they would come out to it because, you know, for the reasons I had sort of shared, like Juice gets the market, but he also understands how the market resonates to nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
But like you had Friedman saying, like apparently Friedman shared a story that in 2011, there was discussion in the organization as the Vancouver Canucks were to beat the Chicago Blackhawks, they would play Chelsea Dagger. And there were voices in the organization that said, do not do that. Don't do that. And apparently those voices won out. And then they kind of intimated who that might have been that was trying to influence that. And then they laughed. So I think, you know, you as a podcast listener, you know who they were chuckling about.
I will say, like, I got a text from my friend who's not a hockey fan back home, but like, because we are close friends, he gets a bit of it by osmosis. And he said only like Vancouver would have this as like a hype song. Like he thought it was so funny, just like from the much he's gotten from me about the character of Vancouver and the Canucks fan base. He thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like if we think back to when it started to be used, there was probably someone who's like, oh, this sounds good. Like that's truly as deep as it probably went without any thought to, you know, correlation between lyrics and what the song is about and the possible implication and sort of the, you know, somehow karmic situation that you're placing on players. I don't know. But to me, it's nostalgia. You got to stick to it. What was it like in the building? Because it was electric at home.
Oh, it was insane. I mean, starting from the outside, just like I arrived to the arena about like 5:45, and the plaza was just bumping, even though it was a country band, which I did not approve of. Seemed a bit too welcoming to Nashville. But like, there was the Vancouver Canucks dance team. Didn't know they had a dance team, but they were out there. Kirk McLean was somewhere. There was the weird humanoid captain mascot that I find incredibly creepy. But like, it was so loud and people were just so hyped already. And that was like, you know, over an hour before puck drop. And then when we got inside, like honestly, when you were on the concourse, it was like a normal game. It didn't like, until the end of the game, it didn't feel any different. But as soon as you got inside, it was crazy. Like, I couldn't be sure that they were playing The Streets Have No Name. That's how loud it was.
Really? Okay.
Like, it
did occur to me that it was loud, but I didn't realize it was that loud.
Couldn't hear most of the announcements. It was just from the get-go, everyone was just so excited. It was so loud. It gave me the chills for sure. Very early on, and then once the game started, every hit, every save, every little moment was just enough to send the crowd into chaotic excitement.
Yeah. Well, it was, as Shorty had said, Vancouver and Nashville are the hittingest teams. And then he was questioning whether hittingest is a word. I'm like, it's totally a word. If it isn't, it should be.
I mean, winningest is apparently a word, only in North American sports, but it is.
So hittingest has to be then.
Hittingest, sure. I'll go with it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Vancouver Canucks came out at the start of the first period for the first 5, maybe 10 minutes, throwing their body at everything. And they weren't doing it in a way that would draw the ire of the officials. Like, I don't think anyone would look at that and say the Vancouver Canucks are playing. They were simply playing a tougher game, heavier game than we've seen from this team in the playoffs historically. The energy was there. And it felt for that first as I say, 10 minutes of the first period, the Vancouver Canucks, they've got this in the bag. I was a little worried.
It turns out you don't so actually get goals from hitting people.
No. Well, okay, first of all, the best opportunity in that 10 minutes was not a Vancouver Canuck opportunity. It was a Nashville Predator opportunity where, dare I say it, Bubble Demko had to make an appearance.
Yeah.
And
it's playoff Demko now.
Yeah, so they had Jake Allen doing on the panel, and he actually talked about his positioning. And Demko had overplayed the initial opportunity, and so he was out of position. So he had to make an epic save. But his agility and dexterity is just top notch.
Exactly.
So he got across, did the splits. Claude Van Damme it, made the save.
I'll be so curious. By the way, just sidebar on Jake Allen is about whether he's a good analyst or not. I remember seeing him on the first, just in passing on the first day of the playoffs, and I was like, who is that man? Because you just never know what goalies actually look like.
Yeah, so if I were to give you a very brief review, very intelligent. I mean, a lot of goaltenders, they see the game.
They're built
differently. Yeah, they are. Very intelligent. I don't know if he'll fit. You think of the energy dynamic on that current panel where you have he was with Friedman and Bieksa, and those two they just go in a different direction. Yeah. He doesn't really fit that group, but I think there's a future for him. It'll be good to sort of see how he plays it out. But he's very intelligent, and he is able to break things down in a way that makes that totally makes sense. I see what you're saying. I totally see what you're describing too. So credit him for that. But Nashville gets that first goal, and it comes in a lull of play from Vancouver. It felt to me for the first two periods, Vancouver came out at the drop of the puck with a whole lot of energy. And Nashville's game plan was, let's go and weather the storm because they won't be able to keep this up. And the moment Vancouver found that sort of energy to, drop, Nashville capitalized. In the first period, even strength goal. Second period, power play goal.
Yeah, and you're right. They completely took advantage of the opportunity, and much as we'll probably go into, Canucks have pre-scouted their Saros. Definitely the way seems to be screen Demko because he's only good at stopping pucks he can actually see.
Yeah. Well, the Zucker goal specifically, you can players going every which direction. And Demko seemed to actually, he chose poorly in the direction he needed to chase the puck. But in fairness to him, I think he was guessing. Yeah. The thing that they actually talked about, and Juice brought it up, was that Pettersson got waved out of the faceoff.
Yes.
And then when, was it Lafferty?
Lafferty, exactly.
Was it Lafferty? Yes. Okay.
But yeah,
Lafferty didn't fulfill the role as a center. He decided, I'm going to go and become who I was. And that created that.
Lafferty, you're not who you are. You must, change your identity at will. And obviously that was a misunderstanding, and I'm sure that will be cleared up. It did seem to me that was one of a few moments where Lafferty was uncomfortable on PD and Hogg's wing, and maybe that's part, it's not entirely his fault that line was ineffective over the night, but yeah, it didn't seem like a fit, and when Mikheyev went onto that line, it maybe fed a little better.
Yeah. The second period, though, did get underway. As I said, Canucks brought the energy, and it didn't take very long for Elias Lindholm to tie it up. I spoke in tongues on Threads in all caps, hashtagged it Canucks, and threw up a Breakfast Club GIF, and everyone understood me.
I'm guessing the closing image of the film.
Gosh darn it. Yeah. But I shouted, I commented actually earlier how I don't think my daughter truly understands what playoff daddy's like. Mm-hmm. And she got that full experience. She thinks it's kind of funny because I don't like I celebrate, like when I'm at Whitecaps, choosing me at Whitecaps, like I get excited, but it's like, boom, done. Playoff hockey though, man, I bring it. And I was just like clapping my hands. I'm like demonstratively reacting to saves and missed chances. And yeah, I lit up because that Lindholm goal, it felt to me like, oh yes, the Vancouver Canucks, they're bringing it in the second period. They figured it out. This is our year. Problem is that discipline apparently didn't agree.
Yeah.
And the Vancouver Canucks got themselves into some penalty trouble, which I know there are some like, oh, the NHL refs are out to get Vancouver. There was only one call that I didn't quite like.
Yeah.
But
and now I'm forgetting
in
which
watching
one
the
it was.
replay, it's like, well, I see why it's being, was it the Mikheyev? It was a forecheck. Let me see.
Oh, and the Carson Soucy holding call I didn't like either.
It was,
But
the Carson Soucy calls. It was the PDG, the Philip Giuseppe tripping.
Yeah, you're right.
Late in the third. I wasn't really a big one because he'd gone in for an aggressive forecheck. Like it wasn't like he.
But yeah, again,
it felt
like
to me like there wasn't anything about that spoke screen penalty. But I watched the replay. Yeah, he swung his stick, took his skates out. Yeah,
honestly, like I completely agree with you, but none of them were egregious, right? Like some of the reactions in the crowd,
Philip
obviously.
Hronek penalty. Yeah, if you didn't see the replay, the holding the stick. Oh, he gone and held that stick, and he held that stick good.
Yeah,
like,
and no, I guess
in front of the referee.
The decision making, the referee officiating. None of them, like some were marginal for sure, but like none of them you were like, oh my god, like that's crazy. How do you give that? Like, Canucks got themselves in that.
If I had any issue,
trouble.
Yeah, it's just that there were a couple opportunities where I felt that the referees could have given Nashville a penalty for something very similar to what they were calling against Vancouver. But overall, I wasn't too particular, with the officiating. And in the second period, it was really the Vancouver Canucks doing this as a disservice.
Yes, I agree. Like, when they started the game and they weren't, like, getting the shots, but they're playing physically, like, that's an okay method to do, like, when you're chasing the game, but when you're behind the 8 ball and you're just playing loose and ill-disciplined, like, yeah, that's not a good method. That's, like, so far from Rick Tocchet hockey, right? But the penalty kill
third
did
period,
work.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the penalty kill...
Save for that one goal.
Yes. But, like, in general, like, they did a lot better than we have seen them do recently. The power play, not so much, but...
And the Ryan O'Reilly goal came on maybe a particularly aggressive penalty kill. And I don't want to say... Like, I like the aggressive penalty kill the Vancouver Canucks bring, but this wasn't as coordinated. You have one forward going too high without the response from the players around them. Breaks the box.
Yeah, that's not a system.
Back the net. Well.
Yeah.
Third period, though. The Vancouver Canucks approached the third period much like they approached the first and second. They came out from puck drop, playing a heavy game. But with a touch of, not desperation, but whatever you would call it, as close to desperation as possible. Like, they played with a little more fast and loose pace than we had seen in the first two periods. And as a result, I feel that allowed them to take advantage of Nashville in a way that they weren't able to in the first two periods. They were still throwing the body, but they not only were throwing the body and providing this aggressive forecheck, their zone exits and entries were a lot faster, a lot more coordinated. They were taking the puck to the net far more frequently. And that put Nashville, who again was trying to do the whole, let's, weather the storm. They can't hold this forever, mode. Well, the problem is that you have to rely on your goaltender making that big save. When P.S. Suter tipped in the Quinn Hughes shot, which again, I thought it was Quinn until they showed the replay.
Yeah.
Boom. Playoff Chris goes absolutely nuts. I was busy commenting about how I had scared the dog when Dakota Joshua scores the goal. And gosh darn it, I was saying some choice words.
Yes, I think I turned the air blue when the second goal. Like, everyone was cheering and high-fiving for the first goal. And the 12 seconds later, which I believe might be some sort of playoff record for consecutive goals.
For the Vancouver Canucks, it certainly is.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was just so shocked and joyous. And that came out in a series of expletives to Nadine.
Yeah. But what's interesting is when Vancouver goes up 3-2, they still carried the play. Like, Vancouver was like, no, this game is ours. Which was weird because, like, it wasn't really until the third period where they just brought it in this 100% effort experience. Nashville had no answers. And the fact that the score was 4-2 is somewhat flattering that the Vancouver Canucks didn't get a fourth or fifth goal with Sarlson net. That's how much more in control they were in the third period.
Yeah, it felt like the atmosphere went up a notch just because the Canucks were ahead, but it didn't feel as tense. It didn't feel like, oh, the Canucks are ahead, but like they could easily let in a goal. It felt like they were far more in control. But yeah, I mean, like, Soros is, like, he let in one goal, and the Canucks were giving it to him.
And the Vancouver fans let him, oh gosh, it was like, I mean, it wasn't Winnipeg Jets level trolling. Like, the Winnipeg Jets were chanting, pull your goalie to Colorado. Georgiev didn't look so hot.
Yep.
In fairness, if you were watching any of the game, Hellbuck didn't look so hot either, though. Whatever.
Yeah, but literally, yeah, the Canucks fans did their job for sure. There was a Nashville fan in the section next to us, and he was getting so much hate the whole game. The VPD came in. I don't think they were actually doing anything related to him, but as soon as that VPD officer came into that section, everyone started chanting, kick him out. And like, he wasn't being nice, like, he definitely was giving it back, but I don't think he did anything egregious. I think it was just Canucks fans getting protective over their
being Canucks fans
space. Yeah.
But Joshua did get an empty net goal. And when they pulled the goaltender again, I was like, pass it to Dakota. I wanted him to get a hat trick. The blue guy in the dressing room. Oh, it was like, and they show the replay of him on the bench, like, just going off on Garland. Like, they were loose. They were having a good time. They were enjoying themselves. It was a pleasure to see. Post game, JT was asked what he thought, and JT acknowledged that he was completely blown away by how the fans brought it and what playoff hockey means to this market, and really gave him a new perspective on
which
what
I think
it means to be a Vancouver Canucks hockey player.
Yeah, and I think that's important because also it does show that he admits that, like, he maybe, like, underestimated this fan base, which is interesting. But yeah, I will say, like, those JT Miller quotes took me completely by surprise. So we were in the bar by this point where Sportsnet was on TV, but we couldn't hear anything. And I was like, I said to Nadine, I bet you JT Miller right now is saying how he couldn't even hear the crowd and they've got a job to do and it was just like any other game. And he's literally saying the opposite. So sorry, JT. I didn't give you much credit either.
Yeah. Well, whether or not it has to do with JT, the gates are going to open 30 minutes earlier for the second game 2 on Tuesday night.
I think that's wise. There was a lot of crowd control. Yeah, it wasn't going well outside the entry into the game. It was fine once we got inside, but it was not good. So probably wise to give them some more
further
time.
expanding on the energy, Quinn was also asked post game what he thought, and he said, like, I've been to the Garden, I've been to where it was. Also, he's like, and
the Devils.
That building was
games,
the loudest building I have heard.
Yeah. It did seem like a few players were taken aback.
Yeah, Canucks fans did your job. Congratulations. Do it even better for Game 2. Game 2 gets underway 7 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. You'll be listening to this episode, hopefully, before the puck drops in that game. Nashville's obviously still in town because that's just the way the playoffs work. Mm-hmm. Are you optimistic going into Game 2? Are you pessimistic? Are you apprehensive? Are you confident?
Honestly, 3 out of 4. I am apprehensive, but I'm confident and optimistic. Like, I genuinely think we have Nashville's number now. And I do think that there was... this is obviously an over-exaggeration, but there was a tiny part of them that died last night. Like, the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, like, were just nowhere near an even contest, I feel like, and definitely energy levels-wise. So, I'm not saying they're defeated, and I still think they'll take one of the games, at least one of the games, but I don't think it'll be in Vancouver. What about you?
Okay. I'm confident, and I look at how Nashville needs to approach Game 2 and genuinely wonder what is it that they can change about their game that can handle the Vancouver Canucks. Because I thought Nashville approached Game 1 very intelligently. Vancouver, on the other hand, can look at what Nashville was doing and say, hey, we can adjust. And I feel that gives Vancouver that edge. And that's not a knock against the Predators. It's just when you look at what happened, the Preds didn't really make any mistakes, save for maybe that, third goal when Dakota Joshua was part of an aggressive forecheck that seemed to surprise Saros. Okay, so you firm that up, but I still think the edge goes to Vancouver. I am, however, a long-suffering Vancouver Canucks fan who has been holden by many disappointments over the years. So I am somewhat apprehensive. I am optimistic, but I don't know if I'm confident.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I do feel confident. Like you say, like Nashville came in with a patient game, but they just got deflated by the end. So I'd be interested to see where their energy levels of both teams are and what their approach is. Because Canucks, if anything, had too much energy at points, and that came out in ill-disciplined play. So.
Okay. Now, as we would normally do, the Vancouver Canucks obviously taking on a team in the playoffs, we sort of predict what's the series going to end in. We kind of have an advantage because we know the Vancouver Canucks won at least one game. So we know in 4 is a chance. We could say 5. We could say 6 or 7. Like that first game opens the door to everything, doesn't close the door to a whole lot. Anna, what say you?
I can't even remember what I put in my bracket, but I do think it's between Canucks in 5 or Canucks in 6.
Gotta pick one.
I know. I'm gonna go Canucks in 5. Look at me.
I'm gonna go Canucks in 6.
There you go. Okay. We'll see.
Yeah. And I chose the safe, which is 6, simply because I could see it in 5. And if, puck luck were a thing in 4, I do feel the Vancouver takes this series, but I do need to give Nashville an opportunity to show that they're a playoff team. And I think they have that in them. As you had mentioned, do they win a game? Probably. And they probably win that game in Nashville. So the Canucks do make that trip to Tennessee. They play Nashville on Friday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific is the puck drop. And then on Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific in Nashville. They then come back to Vancouver for a Game 5 if necessary. That's on Tuesday at some time. Yes. It's to be determined. And then if they have a Game 6, it's Friday the 3rd at a to be determined time. And a Game 7, if necessary, Sunday the 5th at a to-be-determined time. The hope is, though, that there's only one of those, if not two of those, to be determined to be sorted. Quick side note, they talked about it on the intermission panel. Nashville-Vancouver is the longest distance between any playoff opponents. There was some consideration at one point that Games 6 and 7 were to be back-to-back. And thankfully, the league came to its senses.
I know. Like, and I know
Could you imagine
because I think Vancouver and Nashville kind of complained about not starting their series till Tuesday. So that's why it ended up starting on the Sunday, which, makes way more sense. But yeah, that would be crazy. Like, that would be insane for a regular season game. Never mind playoff game, so... Yeah.
I skipped over this news before we got going, or when we got going, but the Canucks did get the win against Calgary at home, and they lost against the Jets to wrap up the regular season. The win against Calgary just meant that Vancouver locked in the potential of Nashville. And then that was confirmed the following night, and then the loss to the Jets was just more of a loss to the Jets. Yeah,
and when they gave a few players the night off, it was to be expected. It was a bit of a
perfectly
shrug.
Fine.
But yeah, I think it was in the maybe two things worth noting from the Calgary game is obviously Philip Hronek having jokes, chirping Calgary team about them going on holiday, which also that is the most hockey thing.
You're about to go on holiday.
Hockey thing ever, complaining, basically showing off about doing free labor whilst your friends are on vacation. But yeah. Something that was related to the series was Kevin Bieksa, I believe it was the Calgary game, talking about how much of a struggle they had in the 2011 playoffs just with distances and time zones. Like, the Canucks suffered big time with that. Like, they had, 2 series in the central time zone, 1 in the Pacific.
San Jose was really the only series where the Pacific.
I know, and it was still pretty far.
Like afternoon puck drop in San Jose.
Yeah. Honestly, San Jose series was so, dull before the actual, the main thing I remember, apart from the stanchion goal, obviously, is the Canucks ended up on Google Maps on San Jose. So for, quite a few years, if you search certain streets in San Jose, the entire Canucks team was there. There you go.
Oh, okay. Cool. Obviously, we'll be back in again a week's time, talk more about the rest of the series and how it's sort of played out. But before all of that, we do need to talk about the rest of the league and the baby Canucks, and we'll do that in our next segment. We're going to take a short break. You listen to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
The Stanley Cup playoffs got underway on Saturday, April 20th. There were only 2 games that night, both games happening in the East. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Islanders 3-1, and the Boston Bruins beat the Maple Leafs 5-1. If you were following the local, maybe not so local sports news, the end of the world was nigh. Apparently there was another hockey game happening. It was very much a woe is the Leafs centric experience. You then had 4 games on Sunday. We already knew about the fact that the Vancouver Canucks beat the Predators, but the other games that got underway, Panthers beat the Lightning 3-2. Very close game.
Yeah. Weirdly close game.
And I think that's going to be a good series to watch.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that, I think a lot of people expected the Panthers to, not, walk away with it, but, definitely be in control of that series. But, there are a few just still really elite players on the Lightning, rather. So, yeah, I think it has the potential to be an interesting series.
Rangers beat the Capitals 4-1, and the Jets and Avalanche decided to play football. First period, if you chose the over, you were rich. There were 6 goals scored, 3 for each in the first period. The Jets then raced out to another 3-goal lead and then proceeded to go and encourage the Avalanche to get back into the game before instating the 3-goal lead, only to then give it up again. I would imagine it's going to be a lot closer in game 2, but that was a game if you happen to be watching it before the Canucks and the Preds got underway. Yeah,
we watched the end of it inside Rogers Arena there, and I just said to Nadine, I don't have the energy for this series. I can't, if Canucks are doing this kind of series, I can't do it. My heart couldn't take it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have gone through an experience like that. If I was a Jets fan, I would have been tough. I would have been happy, but I would have expended all of my first round energy in game 1. I mean, actually, thinking back to my experience to the Canucks Stars, quadruple overtime. Yeah, I expended all of my energy for that series in that game and a bit.
Yeah.
It was actually 2 games in a period. It was nuts. And I mean, I just thinking back in the 4 overtime periods, we had 2-man advantages going both directions. And it just, neither team could score. It's this game will never end. Anyhow, tonight, as we're recording this episode, the final 4 teams in the West are getting underway. Golden Knights, Stars, Kings, Oilers. Before I get to those games which are currently in progress, the Maple Leafs pulled out a 3-2 victory over the Bruins. So all is much better in the Big Smoke. The Hurricanes beat the Islanders 5-3. So Carolina now has a 2-game lead against the Islanders. Underway right now in the West, you've got the Golden Knights up 3-2 against the Stars in the second period. Oilers are currently up 2-0 on the Kings in the first.
Yeah. And obviously you guys will know the results of that, but just to say that, Islanders Hurricanes game, talking about heart attack hockey, the fact that Islanders were 3-0 up and lost the game. I mean, to me, they are one of the weaker teams, maybe weakest. Maybe Capitals would be the weakest, but, definitely one of the weaker teams that actually made it into the playoffs. And, you can't have gotten much confidence out of that game, out of disappearing from that game. I don't know what to make of Maple Leafs Bruins either. I just want both teams to have the worst time, if that's possible.
Okay. Yeah, and then they get disqualified. Is that what you want?
I mean, yes, ideally, yes. Or a sinkhole opens up and swallows both teams. I don't know. But, I guess the best we can hope for is a 7-game series that contains lots of injuries.
Okay. How would you, if they both got disqualified, how would you approach round 2? Would you give the winner of the Florida Tampa Bay Lightning series a bye, or would you just have Florida and Tampa Bay do a do-over?
Yeah, whatever. I think whoever had the most interesting series, which honestly might be Winnipeg, Colorado. It might be, maybe not Islanders Hurricanes, because let's not keep the Islanders in the playoffs and prolong their misery anymore. But either the Florida series or that one. Okay. Maybe, although Stars Knights could be really interesting too, so I wouldn't be mad.
So, looking at the bracket as it stands right now, who do you have coming out of the Dallas Golden Knights series?
I think I'm the only one that's still picking Vegas. Maybe not the only one, but
you must be, because I'm picking the Stars.
Yeah. I just still think Vegas in the playoffs can do damage, especially with Mark Stone's back. His spleen is unlacerated.
Respleened?
Respleened, exactly. I just think Vegas in the playoffs is still so dangerous. So yeah, I'm still picking Vegas. I do think I think I picked Vegas in 7 in my bracket, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think you're wrong, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, Dallas is a better team. Don't get me wrong.
Winnipeg, Colorado.
Winnipeg. Like, I think Colorado has better skilled players, but their goaltending is so poor. So, yeah. Winnipeg.
Okay.
In 6.
We both have Vancouver, Edmonton, and Kings.
Edmonton.
I don't want to say it, but it is the Oilers.
Yeah. And, like, I think LA probably steals a game again, like the Nashville series, but yeah, it's probably over fairly quickly.
Okay. In the East, Florida or Tampa?
Florida.
Okay. Boston, Toronto. And by the way, I agree with Florida.
Yeah, yes. Boston in 7.
Okay, I have it as Toronto in 7, and I just didn't like myself. But I think that has more grudge speaking than, Toronto speaking.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know what to think, because it's like I do hate Boston more than I hate Toronto, but it's close, and I hate the Toronto narrative more than I hate the Boston narrative, so. Anyway.
Okay. Rangers, Capitals.
Oh, Rangers. That may be the only 4-0.
Clearly, I mean, and that's, to me, Washington, their victory was making the playoffs, so.
Yeah, which, in a very exciting way. But yeah.
Hurricanes, Islanders. Now, I mean, again, this one, Hurricanes are up 2 buzz, so it's kind of a moot point, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's Hurricanes too.
Yeah, honestly, Hurricanes looks very
I don't
good.
want us to go any deeper.
Yeah.
We'll revisit this sort of series to series. But if you happen to be a fan of Electronic Arts, EA Sports came out with their, NHL 24 AI-powered prognostications. Did you happen to see who they have in the Stanley Cup final?
Yes, I did, Chris. I believe that was the Vancouver Canucks and the Boston Bruins. And Chris, did you happen to see who EA picked as the winners of that Stanley Cup final?
The Vancouver Canucks in 7. And honest to goodness, if it goes to 7 again, I'm going to hate life.
And expire, probably. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't relive this. No.
That's...
Oh, man. EA's choosing chaos.
Wild. Yeah, I don't know what they're on over there in Burnaby, but that's crazy.
And then closer to home, you have the Baby Canucks, the Abbotsford Canucks in the playoffs, chasing the Calder Cup. They, however, have themselves an interesting first round because the way it works in AHL, it's a shorter number of games, and you don't necessarily get to play at home.
Yep. So Canucks sort of did their part in that they won their last regular season game to give themselves the chance of home ice in the first round of the playoffs. But Colorado Eagles, after losing their penultimate game, won their final game. And yeah, so Abbotsford Canucks are heading to Colorado for 3 games. That's it. You go to Colorado, you got to win to make it out of there. Like, the AHL playoffs are weird. First of all, a ton of teams make the playoffs, so that's why they have to weed people out quickly.
And Abby is the designated home team in Colorado for game 2.
Yeah. Because I guess, it does make sense in a way, because it's they just don't have the money to be, going back and forth, or, and it's just like, okay, so we're not gonna go back to like Abbotsford, but you guys are the home team. Yeah, that's the way it is, unfortunately. I don't know about the Canucks in the playoffs, but they've looked much better in the regular season and just fell on their face in the playoffs before, so who knows? Obviously they'll be without Shilovs, who is the practice goalie in Vancouver right now.
Emergency backup.
And who knows what will happen there, but yeah, I think it was a friend of the show, Jeff Patterson, tweeting, "Oh, this shows how much faith the organization has in Tolopilo." Don't get me wrong, I think, like, I might even vote for him as most improved player if such a thing exists. He's had a really great second half of the season, but I don't think it matters to the Vancouver Canucks, like, whether they have competence in Tolopilo or not. She loves this coming up because, like, it's not been an issue for the entire time that Abbotsford Canucks have existed. Like, during COVID, they completely ransacked the Abbotsford Canucks for their taxi squad. Like, you know, like, I like Tolopilo a lot. But yeah, it does make me a bit nervous for them not to have any other options. Obviously, they do have another goalie in Zach Solchenko, but, like, he's hardly played. So, yeah, we'll see. Max Sassen's having a great season. Arshdeep Baines is obviously down there playing really well. Tristan Nielsen is very exciting as a player. But yeah, like, did it make it out of a 3-game series on the road? Maybe. But yeah, I long to be surprised by Abbotsford Canucks in the playoffs. But yeah, I don't know. Especially defensively, I'm not sure I have the huge deal of confidence.
Yeah. I wish I could contribute here, but I don't follow the baby Canucks or the AHL whatsoever. I get all my news from you.
Yeah, and honestly, the last couple months, I've not been paying a great deal of attention, but it was really nice to watch the final home game this season on Saturday night. Like, Brandon Astle, who's the play-by-play down there, who does all the games by himself, just, like, phenomenal. He's so smart and just, like, knows every little tiny bit of information about the opposition. Like, if the opposition is, like, related to someone who once played a game in BC, Brandon knows about it and he's going to bring it up. So, like, that makes it more enjoyable. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, I think they play game 1 on Wednesday, so it is technically on an off day from the playoffs. So feel free, Canucks fans, to fill more of your days with hockey.
Yeah, and actually, that sort of going back to something we didn't talk about in Rewind. If you want to watch the Canucks a road game with a whole lot of fans at the Rod, you can. It's like $15 with the money going to the Canucks for Kids Fund. And apparently they'll have, like, food and drink specials and stuff, courtesy of their good friends at Rogers. Whether or not that, makes anything actually affordable in the building, haven't a clue.
We'll see. I mean, over the year in 50/50, I have, plus the Canucks for Kids telethon, I have contributed a lot of money towards Canucks for Kids, and, like, I do think it's a really important cause. So, like, on the one hand, when I first saw they were charging money, I was like,
I've got no problem with them.
But yeah, it's like, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, I did initially think it was cheeky, but once I saw what it was for, I was like, fair enough. But yeah, I do think it's gonna be, all the affordable stuff will taste terrible. But, like, it's still a cool thing. And yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see
So, Anna, here we are, end of an episode, end of our first playoff episode in like forever, which is kind of cool. We'll be back again next week, hopefully. Extremely positive up on the Vancouver Canucks past 3 games that we'll have witnessed. Who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about what's next, or maybe we'll be talking about game 5. Who knows? But any final words of wisdom for our listeners at this stage of a show?
Like, just how cool it is that, in the words of the late great Jason Botchford, it's finally going the other way. Like, this town really deserves some fun and some excitement in terms of playoff hockey, so long may this adventure continue.
My words of wisdom, not so sage. The piñata you bring to the 7-year-old's birthday party is never going to go the way you think it will. Just saying.
Good life lesson.
Yeah. But if you reach this point of the show, we do this each and every week. But first and foremost, we'd love to connect with you. You can do that by talking to us in C4 Discord, discord.io/C4 podcast. Take part in the conversation there. I can hear all about some of the greatest pizza, the fact that Anna is misremembering whether or not it serves, all places serve the best, I guess, Roman pizza, was it? I don't exactly know what you were trying to refer to in regards to Roman. But that's a nom in C4 Discord.
Like, from Rome, just to be clear, not ancient Rome, just the city Rome, to be clear. But anyway. Gotcha.
Sure. You can also, follow us on social media. We're at the C4 Podcast, and most platforms except on Threads, we're at the real C4 podcast. You also have the means to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We love new subscribers, but we'd also love if you were to tell your friends and family to subscribe to and listen to us. And one of the cool things that you could do is any feedback you provide us, we'll often include in our shows. We're not that type of show that ignores our listeners. We actually embrace them. Talk to us. And if you want to hear yourself, tell us, hey, answer this on an upcoming episode. And we totally will. We have no shame. We'll tell you all the deepest, darkest secrets if it's from a listener. And if you want to get into an exclusive group of people, friends of the show, one of the ways you can do that is supporting us by going to support.c4podcast.com, which will forward you off to buy me a coffee, or as Anna and I like to call it,
buy me a pint.
And in doing so, you can contribute a monetary donation either as a one-off basis or alternatively subscribe to us on a monthly or annual basis. And in doing so, it helps support us and the show, pays for our bills, of which there's not too many, but they do obviously add up. And as I riffed at the top of the show, if there's a dealership out there that wants to hook me up with a new vehicle, I'm all ears. We will sell the podcast to get Chris a new ride. But on behalf of Anna, A4Size03, myself, Chris at Lightforce, I'm signing off this episode of Canucks Playoff Hockey Podcast Action with We Out.